Hello everybody, Train from Living Intentionally here. Today I'd like to talk about the perceptual contradictions of the logical mind versus the spiritual heart with regard to my journey into energy healing. I'm an engineer. I've worked in tech in one form or another since 1986. I've also had spiritual practices since the 1970s. I started meditating after reading The Journey of Awakening by Baba Ram Dass. In the late 1980s, I was keenly interested in the concept of internal martial arts such as Tai Chi and their apparent use of life force energy as both spiritual practices and as martial techniques. One day in 1988 or 89, I was scheduling a chiropractic appointment. Dr. Tim, my chiropractor, offered that if I scheduled to be the last appointment of the day, he'd do some energy work on me. I was intrigued, so I booked the last session of the day. Dr. Tim just called it energy. I later came to recognize that he was working to clear blockages in the etheric double. At the point he worked around my skull, and it's worth noting that he wasn't actually touching me at any point during the session. It felt as though my brains were being pulled and stretched outward from my ears. It was literally the most mind-blowing experience I had ever had. That experience turned my logical world upside down. My skeptic's brain kept insisting that what I'd experienced wasn't possible, and yet I couldn't ignore the fact that 1, I'd gone into the session with zero expectations, 2, what I experienced happened when I was both mentally and physically sound and unaltered, and 3, given points 1 and 2, I had to accept at face value that the experience I registered was, in fact, very real. My mind was blown. Dr. Tim gave me some pointers on how to become sensitive to energy. Later, he taught me the basics so I could do such sessions myself. Over a couple of years, these etheric field balancing sessions became somewhat of a party trick. I'd offer free sessions only asking for feedback on their experience. It turned out on many an occasion that I'd find blockages and described what I'd found to the person, only for them to surprisingly recount that they'd experienced an injury or some chronic problem in the area, and often I would help resolve the problem. By 2006, I discovered quantum touch, another energy healing modality. I read the book and was impressed by the simplicity of the techniques and by the way they melded so well with what I was already doing with the etheric field balancing, which I would now describe as a form of qigong because it utilizes the practitioner's own energy. QT advocates using universal life force energy through focused breathing techniques. By adding QT breathing to my EFB work, the effectiveness increased and my ability to sustain the work was only limited by my attention span. I went on to study the QT advanced modalities of supercharging and core transformation. Eventually, I became a certified instructor. Now, all this backstory is leading up to what many of you already know. Many alternative healing modalities are not considered to be credible. In fact, it was only in the last week or two that I saw a Twitter thread claiming that energy healing's efficacy had long been debunked, so skepticism was warranted. And right there is the whole point of this article. My first-hand experiences contradict such skepticism and challenge the logical brain to accept it as real. I genuinely believe that all healing is placebo. Now, I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean that all healing is done by the person who is unwell. A doctor writing a prescription doesn't heal you. He or she gives your body the tools to create an environment that enables the body to heal itself. That's what drugs do. They disrupt the current norm in the body so that one or more bodily systems can restore optimal function. Drugs create a physiological effect, not the healing itself. When I fully accept that my body is doing all its own healing, I can't really debunk the efficacy of the energy healing I do. In the context of sick person as healer, the practitioner of a healing modality is holding space of possibility for the client. The practitioner is co-creating significant suspension of disbelief in the client to promote the healing placebo. That's no small thing. And when the client and practitioner are both 100% on board with the process and both hold an expectation of a successful outcome, the client's body will take that opportunity and run with it. This is the power of intention, and it's a major part of why I called my company Living Intentionally. Trust your instincts. Empiricism is valid. Empirical evidence is the very basis of how we formulate hypotheses. And when you find something that works for you, it works regardless of what the logical brain might be whispering. Now, if you like this video, please hit that like button and consider subscribing. If there's anything you'd like me to address in the future, please leave a comment. It all helps grow the channel. This is Train at Living Intentionally, wishing you a most wonderful day.